Hello, valued viewers. I hope you are all doing very well. So the origin of the Union Pacific 484 class began in the late 1930s with the United States emergence from the Great Depression and, of course, the events that led up to World War II. One of those locomotives that came along during that time was the Union Pacific Challenger 4664 articulated locomotive, which was a dual-purpose locomotive. But the Union Pacific also realized that it needed a standard locomotive that was greater than the 482 locomotives that they had been using priorly. And this point became crystal clear when in 1937, a 7000 class 482 Mountain had the honor, and I say that sarcastically, of demonstrating the lack of steaming power inherent in that type of locomotive. When on a train with Union Pacific President William Jeffers, who was traveling in a business car with the other delegates from the Union Pacific on the rear of the train, the locomotive came to a stall. And at that point, the Union Pacific President William Jeffers had seen enough and immediately got on a telegram directly with ALCO stating that the Union Pacific needed a better standard locomotive than what they were using in the 482 Mountain. And as a result of this telegram and over a period of time, this resulted in one of the best steam locomotives ever produced that was non-articulated, and that was the 484 class in general. And over the following years, a total of 45 locomotives in this class were ultimately delivered, and of which the first 20, numbered 800 to 819, were delivered in 1938. A further 15, number 820 to 834, which had larger wheels and cylinders, as well as a 14-wheel centipede tender. And those locomotives arrived the following year. This second batch was designated 484-2, and therefore the original batch became 484-1. And then there was a final batch of 10, almost identical to the second, except for the use of some substitute materials. And those appeared in 1944, and these were known as 484-3s. And this last batch of 10 484-3s were also the last steam locomotives produced for the Union Pacific Railroad. And of course, these new 484 class locomotives use two standard cylinders to produce steam. And originally, this arrangement received some criticism in its use because there was doubts that the locomotive could be stable running high-speed passenger trains. And ALCO diligently quashed those worries from Union Pacific by employing one of their lateral motion devices to lead coupled wheels. The 484 class was a very elegant and very uncluttered design. The class was built upon cast steel locomotive framing, which basically replaced many separate parts by one single casting. Now, one thing the Union Pacific didn't want in this class of locomotives was thermic siphons, which is a type of fusible plug. Union Pacific held the view that these common devices were more trouble than they were of help. Now, imagine that, as a locomotive that runs on a boiler system without a safety device such as a thermic siphon or a fusible plug. This issue has come up a few times in my earlier videos, and I just find it remarkable that this kind of practice was allowed, just for pure safety reasons. One of the most original features, and this is one that greatly contributed to the overall success of the 800 class, was the main motion. Aesthetically, the main rods were pure poetry when they operated, but there was a great deal more to it than that. Because of the high speeds and the forces that resulted from, simply stated, the current technology that was available at the time was taken beyond the then accepted limits that were being used in every locomotive at that time. The magnitude of the stresses to which those whirling rods were subject to were very difficult to evaluate with any degree of confidence. The main concept of this new design was that the pulls and thrusts were transmitted from the connecting rods and hence 3 out of the 4 pairs of wheels by separate sleeve bearings. The result was that separate knuckle joints in the coupling rods were replaced by making the center pair of rods forked at both ends and combining the rows of crank pins and knuckle pins. The Union Pacific simply got outstanding results from this experimental coupling rod assembly, and there were many reports that the 484 class reached 110 miles an hour. And another unique feature came after World War II when coal supplies became compromised by strikes and whatnot, and so availability of coal was somewhat limited. And so the Union Pacific converted several of the 800s to oil fire rather than burning coal. So normally the Union Pacific 484s were entrusted with many expresses formed of the then conventional heavyweight stock. But the new engine's arrival on the Union Pacific coincided with the introduction of diesels, which were on faster timings. In those early days of diesel, though, the new form of motive power was not very reliable, and often the 800 class locomotives were frequently found themselves replacing a multi-unit diesel at the head end of a express or passenger service. And quite frankly, they found no problem making up lost times because of these broken down diesels. And this is yet another clue that steam locomotives could be made every bit as viable as the early diesel locomotives were. And not coincidentally, the last passenger run by an 800 was caused by diesel failures. And that last run occurred in the fall of 1958, and it was on the City of Los Angeles locomotive over the last stretch of 145 miles from Grand Island into Omaha. And that pull was made by number 844. And once again, 844 had no trouble picking up lost time on the diesel streamliner schedule. And this despite the locomotive's crew lack of knowledge and experience in steam operations. And sadly, within a year, all of the 484 class were removed from service. And a majority of us know that one of this class were put back in service for excursion and light freight pulling for show, and that was the number 844, which still operates today out of Cheyenne. And also number 814 is on display across the Mississippi River from Omaha at Dodge Park, Council Bluffs. And with that, the following specifications apply to the 484-3 class of the Union Pacific Railroad. The overall length of the locomotive with a tender is 114 feet 2 5/8 inches. The locomotive weight overall by itself was 486,340 pounds. The total weight was 907,890 pounds. The fuel type was coal, later converted to oil from 1946 onwards. The coal capacity was 50,000 pounds. Oil capacity was 6,000 U.S. gallons. The water capacity was 20,000 U.S. gallons. The firebox grade area was 100 square feet. The boiler pressure was 300 pounds per square inch. The heating surface was 4,224 square feet. The firebox was 442 square feet. The main driver diameter was 80 inches. The cylinder size was 25 inches by 32 inches. The valve gears was Wolscherts. The tractive effort was 63,800 pounds. The factor of adhesion was an outstanding 4.17. The operating class was FEF-3. And with that, will conclude this video, and we would like to say thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed the content today, please hit the like button, and if you have not subscribed to the channel, hit subscribe. It helps the channel grow between the two, and turn on all of your notifications if you want to see all of my future updates and uploads. And also visit our print shop at Nickel Plate Limited on Etsy.com if you would wish to support the efforts of the channel. And we thank you once again.